Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Damaged Incorporated. You know me, as always, Ryan Arnold, aka Demon Master Reviews. And today is a brand new episode of New Albums Wednesday. This is episode 2. And before I get started talking about this, I may have I might have lied. Well, sort of. You see, when I made the video, what was it, Monday, I did not know that I was going to be doing this. You know, I wasn't going to be able to listen to the remaining 4 albums in time. But luck would have it, after I posted that video, recorded it, and posted it, I immediately went on a listening spree and basically listened to the last 4 albums, 2 on Monday, and then 2 yesterday, to be able to do this. So, as always, 5 albums. 5 albums that are brand new that just came out. They can be full lengths, they can be EPs, but they must come out. They must be relatively new, basically. They have to be brand new that came out this year, and so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get started. And also, I wanted to make this a little bit longer and talk about the albums a little bit longer. And have them be longer in length. So, let's get started. We start the first album that I'm going to be talking about is the new album from Chevelle, entitled Neratius, which is an abbreviated version of Nothing Is Real, and this is a simulation. Yeah, same here. We'll get to that. I'll get to that once I'm done with all these albums. But yes, this is obviously Neratius from Chevelle, shortened for Nothing Is Real, and this is a simulation. This was released on March 5th this year via Epic Records. And this is a concept album. If you know me, I'm a sucker for concept albums. But the concept about this one is about interstellar travel, mistrust in leadership, loss, and the past. Basically, to summarize this album up, it's a mixture of everything you would know from the late 90s, early 2000s, of that new metal sound, that all kind of that post grunge and alt metal and new metal and all that stuff. Even sometimes some stuff, like when I hear something like that, something from the late 90s, early 2000s style song, feel more modernized, the song Mars Simula comes to mind, that you would hear something like a Slipknot or a Limp Bizkit even. It was so freaking good. It was like, holy shit, you can do stuff from the late 90s and early 2000s and make it modernized. It's really, really freaking cool. And then there are moments where songs are like very similar to Tool a little bit. I think I got some songs, I don't know if Ghost and Razors was one of them, or Future Endlessly. I think one of those songs was very, some of them was more alt-raw, kind of that Breaking Benjamin. I think one of them might have been Peach. Might have been one of those that sounded something like you would hear from Creed, Breaking Benjamin, bands like that. It's a mixture of stuff. But, overall, I freaking dig this album. I might go back and listen to it again. I loved it. Just listening to this was freaking a joy to listen to. And brings back some of those, the late 90s, early 2000s stuff, and just go back and listen to it again. But overall, I give this album a 9.75 out of 10. If you're into that style, the Slipknot of the late 90s, early 2000s stuff, like Slipknot, Mudvayne, Disturbed, Gotham, stuff like that, give this album a listen. It is definitely worth listening to. Anyway, second album is the brand new Alice Cooper album, Detroit Stories. This was released on February 26th of this year via Ear Music. Um, via Ear Music, you know, that E Music or E something like that. Um, you know, I meant a few songs on here were really really good, but I just think for when I this was one of those I listened to Monday, and for what it is, um, nothing I could say. It's not bad, but it just I have it on my notes here. This just sounds like an album you would hear at a party or someone getting drunk. It's like a party. It's kind of one of those It's one of those albums that you know I'm not gonna be too keen on when it comes to Alice Cooper. I mean, my favorite from him is "Hey Stupid" from I think '91 or something like that. I actually love that album. I like it when he's a little bit heavier, but this was just more of that hard rock. There's some blues, some R&B, some heavy rock, as you know. Tony Iommi stated what Black Sabbath were back in the '70s. He always said they were heavy rock and all that stuff. But this just sounds like a party album, a party rock album. You know, you go and have a party and they might be playing this or something like that. And you're having some drinks or something like that, or even a birthday party, even whatever, you know, for kids or adults. It's one of those kind of albums that is like, it's good. Well, like I said, there are a few songs. Wonderful World is one of the songs that I have on here. Sounds like a very heavier version of The Doors. Like, I mean, yeah, like The Doors. It's a really, really heavier version of The Doors. It's really, really heavy. It's like them trying to do kind of pseudo metal, but it's very heavier version of it, where Alice was kind of singing like Jim Morrison from The Doors and all that stuff, and it sounded really heavy. And I was like, wow, this would be pretty cool. I wonder what The Doors would have sounded like if they were doing heavier music. But it was really cool. The other song on here, it, Drunk and in Love, is a bluesy style song, blues all the way, and it sounds really really cool, and I absolutely dug it. It was a really cool one. And then the final one that I had on that it was a highlight on here was "Hanging On by a Thread, Don't Give Up." Is basically about everything that's been going on with the world. You know, the pandemic that's been going on, and everybody's just going into a frenzy and all that stuff. And it's just, you know, don't give up. You know, you're hanging on by a thread, and, you know, just hang in there. Things are gonna get better from here. You know. Aside from that, like I said, it's more of a party rock album, but there are moments of where those three songs I mentioned are really, really good, and I really, really dug this album. It's a good listen to. Aside from those songs, which I would definitely listen to, you know, put them in a playlist that I might be like, hey, let's have some fun. I'll play this song. You know, I would play "Drunk and in Love" or something. You'd play that at a bar and stuff like that. "Wonderful World" is a cool song. You know, some of those. But, you know, for the rest of them, we're good. But, you know, it's one of those albums that's a party rock album. So I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10. If you're into this style of music, definitely go and, you know, check it out. This is something that's more so for you. Next one, and I was kind of hyping myself up for this one. This one is Z2 or Zombie 2. This is the newest EP from the Devil Wears Prada, Zombie 2 or Z2. This was released on May 21st, 2021 via Solid State Records. This is another a label that's kind of got some, I think, some Christian bands and all that. Christian metal band. Demon Hunter comes to mind. And when I saw that they were going to do a sequel to this, a sequel to their 2010 Zombie EP, I was like, oh my freaking god, they might get back to that heavy energy, that heavy. I love the original so much. I loved Zombie EP so much when it came out, and it was just like it blew my mind. Like, holy fucking shit, this band can get heavy and really heavy. It was borderlining deathcore sometimes. So I was really excited. And finally listening to this EP, and the first two songs were like, oh, that same energy, and I was like, yes, we're getting back on it. But it was after that, I'm gonna hate to say this, but did this album live up to the hype that it was, being the sequel to that EP? I'm going to have to say no. Well, like, sort of. With that song, the songs I mentioned, a great freaking start, a heavy start. But after that, I think Contagion, Nora, I forgot the other song, they were all good. It's up there. It's a good EP, but it's just like, ugh, it's so tough because I was so pumped. So pumped about this EP. And it just, it was just like, why, I'm just like, it is literally, you go from, the original, probably because you only had 2 members that were from the first Zombie EP. Everyone else is new. It just didn't live up. It did not live up to, its predecessor. It had its moments, but I just think that it's not as great as the original, unfortunately. And it pains me to say that because I love the first EP, and I do still like this band. They can't. I want them to get back to that greatness they were with from the Roots all the way to Death Throne. That's the best era. I want them to get back to that. But it's just like, ugh. So I'm gonna give this EP a 7 out of 10. It's just, ugh. It pains me to even say that. To give it a 7 because, like I said, I love the original EP, and it just pains me. Glad to see you're still here, Mike. I don't even though I didn't call for you. Next one, the 4th album on here is the self-titled album from Helloween, released on June 18th. So this was literally a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago. Via Nuclear Blast. A few things to mention about this one. This is the first album since Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 and Chameleon to have Kai Hansen and Michael Kiske on vocals. And they're sharing the vocal duties with Andy Durst, which makes this is the first album in the band's history and first album / band in rock and metal history to have 3 lead vocalists, which is easily insane. And basically I listened to this yesterday, and I can easily say this album is a contender for album of the year. Easily. You know what you're getting with Helloween. It's that power metal, and I absolutely love the power metal stuff. But what makes me think this album is a contender for album of the year is the first 3 and the last 4 songs. The first 3, I believe, Out for Glory, Fear of the Fallen, and Best Time was a great ballad, and then Robot King, Cyanide, Down in the Dumps was a very heavy, very thrashy a little bit sometimes, very thrashy. Sometimes it was just like, oh, this is super heavy. And obviously with the epic, Orbit, which leads into Skyfall, the epic on the album, the longest song on here. Just those songs alone, really are just freaking great. I freaking love the song. And like I said, this is easily an album of the year contender. It's not. It's a contender. It's not a legit contender like say Transatlantic, The Absolute Universe, all three versions, and Liquid Tension Experiments, LTE3. Yeah, LTE3. It's not a legit contender like those two, but it is a contender. This could definitely be my top 5. This can be my top 10 easily, without a doubt. It's definitely up there, and I absolutely love it. So I'm gonna give this album a 9.75 out of 10. And while I didn't mention the middle section of this album. They're great. You know, they're really, really good. You know, it keeps it consistent. But it's just that the first 3 and the last 4 are fantastic albums that can make this be a contender, because those songs are really great. They're freaking fantastic. And then the last album, we come on a somber note. As you would know, last year Lee Kerslake, drummer for Uriah Heep and the first 2 Ozzy Osbourne albums, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, passed away last year. I think in his 70s and stuff. Well, it turned out he was able to do an album, and this is the album that he made. It's called 11teen. It's his one and only solo album. It was released on February 26th, same date as, I believe, same date as Alice Cooper Detroit Stories, and this was released on a little Cherry Arm Records via H&E, and he had been doing this in between 2015 and was able to finish it in 2019, just before his passing. And there were some moments where this was just kind of another one that was like the Alice Cooper one, except for the fact that this would be Lee Kerslake's one and only album. There was just some fun stuff. There was some rock. There was some hard rock, some just classic rock. You know, maybe a little bit of country, maybe a little bit, but you know, and then there was an instrumental called Mom, and it was the last thing he would ever do and all that stuff. And basically, I end up saying my respects and saying rest in peace after that. But other than that, you know, it's kind of a sad affair that this is his only album. You know, would have liked to seen what he would have done or something like that, but for what it is, as his last studio album, he went out on a good, somberful, and fun way. There was even like some songs, I can't remember what it was. I think it was something like a Barty was just playing piano and stuff like that, just doing one of those, and it was a pretty cool one. You know, it was a really cool song. There's some other stuff. There's some hard rock. There's some kind of metal, but not so much metal and stuff like that. But you know, it is what it is. And yeah, I'm gonna give this album, Lee Kerslake's one and only studio album, solo album, a 7 out of 10. If you're into this, you know, this is kind of another party one. This is more of just like, you know, just have a chill old kind of day. Just want to pop in like a good CD or something, good album. Pop this in, you know, and if you want to pay tribute, honor him, you know, get this album and honoring, you know, Lee Kerslake. So, yeah, those are the 5. I do want to mention and give this a little bit of a lengthier time, and I want to say that, you know, this is a good start, at least a good start, unlike the last time, but that was the debut episode and want to be able to make it, but I feel like this time take more time. And basically announce I want to try and do these every Wednesday. So that's going to put a lot of more, I guess a little bit more work on me to, you know, listen to the albums that I'm going to do next. Which means it could leave for all the other, for future albums that end up getting released. Like Mike here said about over the rumored Maiden album, which I had heard could potentially be another concept album of theirs, and I absolutely loved Seventh Son. Is it on this file? Which I can pull out here. is. Which, oh, freaking. Okay. Which, if I can pull out here. Oh, Jesus. Come on, camera. Alright, there we go. Alrighty. Alright, apologies for that. And this is just going down. Okay. Alrighty. Obviously I mentioned that I loved his, sorry about that. I mentioned that I loved his, their one and only, so far their one and only concept album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which I own on vinyl. And they always seem to, do concept albums that are more kind of the biblical. I heard that they're doing something that's called Belshazzar's Feast or something like that. That's what I'm hearing, so I don't know what it's gonna be called, but I'm hearing about it's another biblical-based concept album from him, and you know how I am with concept albums. I absolutely love it. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be continuing to do these every Wednesday, so there's going to be another one next Wednesday. So, yeah, but then again, this would probably be the first time where, as far as I'm aware, this might be the first time they might do back-to-back really good albums. That would be a little bit too much, but I'm hearing about it being, I don't know, it might be single disc. Who knows? Them doing a second concept album is a pretty cool idea. And if it being a triple disc, oh boy, that would just be like, it's maybe, you know, it with the concept, with it being a concept album, you know, and it being probably being really long or something like that. It might even be a pretty lengthy chapter or something like that. You never know. I would think for something as big of a name as Belshazzar's Feast, I would think it would be a pretty lengthy album. I would think am I thinking it's gonna be longer than Book of Souls? Maybe, but not really. But there are other albums, obviously, I have on the list. Colors 2 from Between the Buried and Me. That is one I'm looking forward to. It's just a lot of others. Obviously, one of the albums I'm going to be talking about the next new albums Wednesday will be Orton Ogan Final Days, which are a really, really good power metal band. Check them out. They're really, really good. Yeah, that's a 2020 album. That is a 2020 album. Can't talk about it. But from what I heard, it's good. It's really good. But, yeah, it's got to be 2021 so for now. And then we're going to go into next year, which will be 2022 and all that stuff. But, yeah, there's just a lot of good albums that I have on the list that hopefully I'm going to be talking about. And a lot of them are going to be, either well-known or they're going to be underground. So there's that. So, there is that. So I might as well end it, right here. I wanted this to go somewhere close to 30 minutes, and it's pretty close to 30 minutes. So, thank y'all to the one person who came in and actually saw this live stream. And if you're watching this as a video, you know, you're more than welcome to come back and watch it all the time. And if you like this video, live stream / video, click the like button. Or if you don't, click the dislike button. Your choice. Comment below what your thoughts are on all these albums for Chevelle Neratias, Alice Cooper, Detroit Stories, The Devil Wears Prada Z2, or Zombie 2, Halloween self-titled, and Lee Kerslake 11-teen. And then obviously, like I said, next week, there will be episode 3 some familiar bands, some not so familiar bands. And if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe. So, thank you all for watching. This has been episode 2 of New Albums Wednesday. I will see y'all later. And as always, keep things metal.